Capcom have never shied away from experimental entries into the Resident Evil franchise with games like Outbreak, and they're at it again with Resident Evil Resistance. I'm Luke, and this is my review of Resident Evil Resistance for GameLuster. Resident Evil Resistance is a 4v1 multiplayer game bundled with the recent Resident Evil 3 remake. So currently the only way to play it is to buy the Resident Evil 3 remake. There's no word on whether it might get a standalone release yet, even though it comes as a separate application to the remake, but that's not important. In Resistance, 4 players team up to fight through a series of maps, dealing with zombies, traps and other obstacles on their path to freedom. As they do this, another player, referred to as the Mastermind, watches them through CCTV cameras. The Mastermind must do everything in their power to stop the survivors by spawning zombies, placing traps and interacting with the environment to slow them down and run out the timer. And here's where we hit Resistance's biggest problem right now. I just don't find it fun to play as the Mastermind due to how easy the survivors have it. To win as the Mastermind, you need to stop the survivors and hold them back until time runs out. However, the game is so generous with bonus time for the survivors that it feels almost impossible to do this. Survivors get extra time for killing zombies, destroying traps, reviving each other, finding and using key items. For example, in the first section of the map, the survivors have to gather 3 key items and place them on the objects at the exit door. However, they get 20 seconds for each key item, so that's already an extra minute. And then they get an extra 2 minutes if all 4 survivors are at the exit door, and it's pretty hard to stop all 4 of them being at the door. Add on to this the 10 to 15 seconds they'll get every time they kill a zombie or disable a trap, and it makes me wonder if it's even worth bothering during the first phase. In the second phase, they get 70 seconds just for finding the keycard and 30 seconds per terminal they unlock. So with 3 terminals, that's nearly 3 minutes plus the extra 2 minutes if they all make it to the door. And then the worst part is at the end of the final phase. If they can destroy all the biocanisters in time, then they have to press a switch to open the final door, which opens after maybe 5 or 10 seconds, and they get a whole minute just for pressing the switch. The generous time bonuses aren't the only reason I think the survivors have it so easy. Unlike main entries, Resistance is more than happy to drown the survivors with resources. There's plenty of ammo, healing and credits in every map, so they'll never run out of resources of any kind.
This really is not a very efficient way of ending your life. Orders are orders.
At the start of each phase, there's also a supply crate where they can spend credits on herbs, ammo or weapons among things. And considering how many credits you can get during the first phase, they're already armed to the teeth by the start of the second phase. They'll have shotguns, SMGs, magnums and a lot of other equipment that means they can easily tear through whatever obstacles you put in their way. On top of this, the survivors can run infinitely, so they can easily weave through any zombies or just swing wildly with melee attacks. And truthfully, I've had so many games as the Mastermind where all it took was one single high-ranked player to pretty much carry an entire team to victory. All I could do was watch them easily walk around my traps, cut down zombies, and outrun my bioweapon without breaking a sweat. It doesn't help that all the maps are tiny as well. A survivor could easily run from the start to the exit of a map in maybe 10 to 15 seconds. As the Mastermind you can lock doors and turn off lights, but the cooldown makes it practically worthless. A level 1 lock takes only 2 hits for a survivor to smash open. At level 3 it's a problem, but there's 20 seconds before you can lock another door. And the maps are pretty bare bones at the moment. There's only 4 of them, and they're all small and comprised of just corridors. In a 4v1, surely the 1 should be overpowered. They should have a major advantage so that the team of 4 have to play smart and work together. But there's barely anything about Resistance that makes me feel like they should do that. Even when a survivor is killed, the time penalty is so pitiful that it doesn't really feel like a punishment. Then when it comes time to use a Mastermind's ultimate move, it still feels like it just barely causes a problem unless you get really lucky. Mr. X or William Birkin are just really clunky and unresponsive in a way that means it's hard to land a hit on survivors who can easily just run circles around you and gain tons of distance in the time it takes to recover from a swing. They also have these annoying habits of having to walk through a door frame weirdly that means survivors can just exploit doors to avoid your attacks, or they can just hide in the vaults. If I were to make suggestions, then I think that firstly the survivors need stamina bars, something that limits how long they can run for, or maybe how much they can swing a melee weapon in a short period of time. On top of that, they really need to cut back on how many resources spawn on a map, and perhaps cut back on the time bonuses survivors receive. The fact that they get 10 to 15 seconds for killing a single zombie makes spawning a zombie feel like more of a risk than a way to attack them. Maybe having a prep phase where the survivors have to wait in the starting zone while the Mastermind prepares some obstacles would help out too. All moaning aside, there's still a bit of variety in your choice of Mastermind. Resident Evil 2's Annette Birkin favours trying to overwhelm the survivors with excessive zombies. There's a newcomer called Daniel Fabron who focuses on buffing and directly controlling zombies to attack the survivors. And then Revelations 2 villain Alex Wesker focuses on using infection-focused tactics to poison and slow down survivors, while Umbrella founder Oswald E. Spencer just uses camera-mounted weapons to directly shoot them. In my experience, I've had the best success rate with Daniel's aggressive control tactics. Trying to pin down and isolate lone survivors can at least drain a bit of in-game time, but it still feels difficult to punish survivors who go off by themselves since they can easily outrun most zombies. The same goes for survivors. There's a few characters, each with different abilities and special moves. I mainly play as Valerie because I like the healing abilities, but there's characters such as Martin who can disable traps and use a blinding blast of light to stun enemies, or there's characters like January who can temporarily disable cameras or increase the amount of bioenergy it costs for the Mastermind to spawn zombies or traps. Playing on the survivor side of things is fine. It uses the Resident Evil 2/3 remake style of third-person gameplay. I'm sure you can gather from all my moaning though that it rarely feels difficult. In most cases, I've only lost as a survivor when we've had a new or generally bad players that don't understand what they're doing. And even then, it's just kind of boring. Each map has a set structure, and the key items are always located in certain spots. So I don't have to look too hard, I just sort of run a loop through all the spots where they spawn until I find it. Then I start looping around all the locations where I might need to use that key item. And in the final phase, it's easy to spot the bio canisters you need to destroy since there's a massive glowing light emitting from them, so you don't even need to guess. You can pretty much spot it instantly, which only makes it more difficult for the Mastermind. I really want to like Resistance. I love the idea of a multiplayer game where both sides are playing different games entirely, but right now things are just far too easy for the survivors while being far more difficult for the Mastermind in ways that they don't have any control over. Capcom seems eager to keep supporting the game though. They recently added Jill Valentine to the survivors side and announced that Resident Evil 3's Nikolai will join the game as a new Mastermind, which hopefully means we might get a playable nemesis in Resistance. But they really need to find that balance, because right now it feels really bad. It's hurting the game in its early steps, which could really cause long-term damage to the player base. There's a great idea here, but it really needs some work, and I really hope Capcom stick with it, and maybe a standalone release too. So that's what I think about Resident Evil Resistance. Thanks for watching the video. Please leave a comment and subscribe to GameLuster, or check out GameLuster.com for more articles. Thanks for watching.